My stepsister-in-law, Chloe, was pregnant again. It was her fourth pregnancy in 2 years. And this time, Marcus decided to keep the baby. Chloe's mother has late-stage cancer, and her last wish is to hold her grandchild. She's already aborted 3 of my children. Her uterus is too fragile to risk another pregnancy. I nodded. All right, let's keep it. The child is innocent. I stopped arguing and causing trouble, and he seemed thrown off by my sudden compliance. Grace, he said, you promised this yourself. Once the baby is born, you can't make a scene. I smiled. Yes, no more scenes. He beamed, then quickly scooped up Chloe, who was still vomiting, and hurried to the hospital. The party ended before it even began. I stood alone on the stage, trembling as I smiled. I tilted my head back, forcing my tears away, and dialed the number. Mr. Ethan, I asked, does your proposal from yesterday still stand? The man paused, steadying his voice, which was trembling slightly with excitement. Of course, miss. Late that night, Marcus returned, his face etched with exhaustion. He saw me sitting motionless on the sofa and casually handed me a box of cake. Are you hungry? This is Chloe's favorite tiramisu. She couldn't eat it due to morning sickness, and it seemed a waste to throw it out. I glanced at the haphazardly scooped cake, not angry, but a bitter laugh escaping me instead. Marcus, I said, do you really see me as so pathetic? He froze for a moment, then sighed helplessly. I've told you countless times, he said. I only see her as a sister. Grace, you're the only one I've ever loved. Trust me, even if we have a child together, it won't affect our relationship. Our wedding in 3 months will proceed as planned. I quirked a corner of my mouth. Really? Your heart may love me, but your body seems quite honest with someone else. He frowned and gently pulled me into his arms. Didn't you say you wouldn't make a scene? I'm not that kind of person. But's pregnancy is unstable right now, and I don't feel comfortable leaving her alone, so she'll be moving in with us until the baby is born. I took a deep breath and pushed him away. Are you finished? His face instantly darkened. Grace, he snapped. Can you please just talk normally? How are we supposed to communicate if you act like this? I lowered my head, suppressing the sharp pain in my chest, and whispered, there's nothing left to say. Let's break up. His pupils contracted, his face etched with shock. 5 years together, and I just proposed to you in front of everyone. You're breaking up with me over something so trivial? I shot to my feet, my eyes bloodshot. Trivial? 4 times in 2 years. And you call that trivial? Fine. He stood up abruptly, nodding with a cold sneer. Let me tell you, Grace, nobody else will ever put up with your temper. Just then, the butler announced that Chloe had arrived. Marcus immediately moved to leave, not forgetting to condescendingly instruct me, please control your temper and be accommodating to the pregnant woman. Don't make things difficult for me. Understand? The door slammed shut. I stood frozen, a heavy stone pressing down on my chest. Tears welled in my eyes, and I hastily wiped them away. I couldn't cry. If he saw, he'd just think I was trying to appear weak or manipulate him. In the courtyard, Chloe was affectionately linked to his arm, smiling brightly. Marcus's gaze was fixed solely on her, gently reminding her every so often, slow down, watch your step. When they reached the steps, he simply swept her into his arms. The steps are too high. You need bed rest now. We can't risk anything. I stared fixedly at those 3 short steps, my nails digging deep into my palms. 2 years ago, after my appendectomy, I was drenched in a cold sweat from the pain, yet I had to drag myself up those very steps, one by one, and he had walked ahead, mocking me without even looking back. Grace, are you done pretending? Don't be so delicate. Turns out, he wasn't incapable of doting on someone. He just wasn't capable of doting on me. The servants carried all 20 plus of Chloe's suitcases to the master bedroom. I stared at Marcus, waiting for an explanation. Chloe is a light sleeper, and the master bedroom is quiet. He didn't even lift his eyelids. You move out. Pick any other room to live in. Chloe immediately waved her hand, feigning modesty. Oh, that won't do. The bedroom is for the master and mistress of the house. If I stay there, sister will be unhappy. I cut off her performance directly. If you know I'd be unhappy, why don't you just get out? Grace, Marcus warned sharply. Watch your tone. Chloe clearly hadn't expected me to be so direct. She froze for 2 seconds before clutching her stomach and beginning to sob. Sister, she whimpered. I know you must hate me right now, and you must despise the baby inside me. I don't want things to be this way, but my mother doesn't have much time left, and I don't want her to leave with any regrets. I rolled my eyes. What does that have to do with me? She immediately burst into tears, looking as if she might collapse, and still managed to lunge forward and grab me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sister, please forgive me. Won't you? Too tired for her nonsense. I shook her off and turned to leave, but she suddenly cried out in pain, collapsing into Marcus's arms. I looked down to see a distinct scratch mark on my arm, clearly made by Chloe's fingernails. Chloe has been prone to fainting at the sight of blood since childhood. Marcus roared, his eyes blazing. How dare you show her your injury? He shoved me away, frantically ordering the butler to call an ambulance, his voice even trembling. My back hit the corner of the table hard, but I was so numb I felt no pain. I only felt a bitter amusement. The last time I tumbled down a hill during a hike, my life hanging by a thread. He never lost his composure like this. He had sworn repeatedly that he loved me. I wondered if he even knew who he truly loved anymore. By the time the ambulance arrived, Chloe was already awake. Marcus was still unconvinced, pestering the doctor with questions. Doctor, is she really okay without hospitalization? Will it recur? Are there any lasting side effects? The doctor shook his head helplessly. It's just a mild case of fainting from blood. She just needs rest. Only after confirming Chloe was fine did Marcus spare a thought for me. I was angry just now, and Chloe's situation was urgent, so I spoke harshly to you. Before he could finish, I picked up my suitcases, ready to leave. Marcus, however, blocked my path. Where are you going? I ignored him and walked straight past, but he forcibly embraced me, Chloe's perfume instantly enveloping me, making me feel nauseous to the point of gagging. Listen to me, he murmured, his voice low. If you go back this late, your parents will worry. If you're homesick, I'll take you home tomorrow. It was a rare moment of tenderness, an unspoken suggestion for me to back down gracefully. In the past, I would have burst into tears and thrown myself into his arms, saying, I was wrong, I shouldn't have made such a fuss. This time, however, I pushed him away with all my might and said indifferently, Get out of my way. I said, You'll leave tomorrow. He furiously kicked over my suitcases, then grabbed my wrist and roughly dragged me into the storage room. Grace, I've had enough of you. I've indulged you too much. Go in there and think about what you've done. The door slammed shut and was locked. Marcus, you lunatic. Let me out. I frantically pounded on the door, but he just stood outside, completely unmoved. A cold sweat soaked my back. My fingers began to twitch uncontrollably, and my breathing grew increasingly shallow. I slid down the door to the floor, my voice already hoarse. Let me out. I don't know how long passed before my vision suddenly went black, and I collapsed heavily to the floor. Dimly, I heard Chloe's faint sobs. Marcus, sister really does seem unwell. I don't think she's faking it. Maybe you should let her out? I can actually understand her. She hates me because she loves you so much. Or maybe we should just terminate this pregnancy too. We've already done it 3 times, so one more won't make a difference. As for my mother, I'll just bear the guilt of being an unfilial daughter. By the time she finished, she was crying uncontrollably. Marcus immediately pulled her into a hug, gently comforting her. Don't worry about her. She's always pulling these little tricks. I'm sick of them. If it weren't for Grandpa wanting to partner with the Hayes family back then, forcing me to approach Grace, I wouldn't have given her the time of day. Chloe, you and the baby are the most important people to me now. If only I had met you sooner. The family estate was a renowned winemaking dynasty in the valley, and to expand into overseas markets, they relied heavily on the Hayes family's cross-border trade channels. I had spent 5 years chasing this aloof senior, only ever receiving his indifferent back. It wasn't until I decided to give up that he suddenly turned around and said he loved me. 10 years. Even after Chloe appeared, I stubbornly believed there had been genuine affection between us. Turns out, it was all a calculation. Lying on the floor, my heart suddenly seized with a sharp, agonizing pain that spread throughout my entire body. I used my last ounce of strength to pound on the door, my voice a mere thread of sound. Marcus, please, I'm really dying. When I woke again, I was in a hospital room. Marcus sat by the window, his long fingers sifting through a new vintage. Sunlight illuminated his sharply defined features, making him seem to glow. I averted my gaze, my eyes aching intensely. Awake? He turned, a rare look of apology on his face. The doctor said it was a sudden claustrophobia attack. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. When can I leave? I cut him off. We need to wait for the test results. He peeled a grape and offered it to me. Still feeling unwell? Want something to eat? This is your favorite variety. I glanced at it, but didn't take it. His hand hung in the air. I turned my face away and opened my phone. There were a dozen missed calls, all from that one number. Could you step outside for a moment? I said calmly. I need to return a call. His eyes darkened slightly. I'll go find the attending physician. As soon as the door closed, I dialed the number. Ethan's voice came through, laced with suppressed anger. I waited for you for 8 hours at our agreed-upon time and place. Is this your idea of business integrity? Even if you were going to cancel, couldn't you have told me beforehand? Even if we go a step further, and you couldn't tell me in advance, you could have at least picked up one of my many calls. I was worried something had happened to you. The sudden concern from this near stranger startled me. I'm sorry. I'm in the hospital right now. What? The hospital? His voice shot up. What happened? Are you hurt? I never imagined that Mr. Ethan, the rumored decisive and efficient head of the family, would have such an excitable and boisterous personality. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. I'm fine. Since I agreed to the strategic alliance, I won't break my word. The wedding preparations will continue as planned. When the call ended, the smile still lingered on my lips. Marcus pushed the door open just then, his gaze heavy. Who are you talking to? Someone you don't know, I replied casually. He scrutinized me for a long time before speaking stiffly. You can be discharged now. I'll take you back to the Hayes family estate. However, I need to wait until I've taken Chloe for her prenatal checkup. She can't manage it alone. I nodded calmly, not saying a word. His chest heaved violently, and he finally roared, losing control. Grace, are you giving me the silent treatment? What do you want me to do? I calmly pointed to his vibrating phone. Your call, he hastily answered, his voice instantly turning soft as water. Hello, Chloe, he spoke as he hurried out of the room, as if his earlier rage had never existed. Less than 10 minutes later, Chloe's social media post was updated. The photo showed her shyly leaning against him, their hands forming a heart shape over her burgeoning belly. The caption read, 2 people, 3 heartbeats. I had long since become accustomed to such scenes. Every time I saw them before, my heart would twist in agony, and I couldn't help but confront him. This time, however, I calmly liked it and even commented, so happy. I envy your little family. Putting away my phone, I handled my discharge papers alone. There was no need to wait for Marcus to return. Every time Chloe called, he was like a man possessed, vanishing for days at a time. Just as I walked out of the hospital room, Marcus's mother called, unable to hide the joy in her voice. Grace, did you and Marcus break up? I told you long ago you weren't a match. Marcus always liked Chloe since he was little, and we always saw Chloe as his future wife. But his grandfather insisted that the Hayes family was a better match for us. Actually, Chloe's family background wasn't bad originally. It's just that her father passed away early, and with no one to manage the family business, it went downhill rapidly. Now that they have a child, you shouldn't cling on anymore. You should know when to let go. With the Hayes family's standing, finding a partner won't be difficult for you, but there's definitely no one better than Marcus. Or maybe I can introduce you to the Miller family. Mr. Miller is a bit older and has children from a previous marriage, but he's very considerate. A perfect complement to your personality, Auntie. I interrupted coldly. Don't bother. I already have someone. Before she could react, I hung up and blocked her number. I had always known she didn't like me as a prospective daughter-in-law, but I never expected her to come and bother me even after Marcus and I broke up. I suddenly remembered the first time I went to the Hayes family estate for dinner. On the dining table, there were just 2 lonely dishes, stir-fried cabbage and a plate of boiled greens. Back then, I foolishly smiled and ate it all, believing that tolerance and concession would earn me acceptance. Thinking back now, it was utterly ridiculous. I waited for the elevator to descend to the first floor. With a chime, the elevator doors slowly opened. In the dim light, Marcus had Chloe pressed against the wall, kissing her. My heart clenched, and I turned to leave, but they spotted me. Chloe leaned languidly in Marcus's arms, her gaze defiant, showing no intention of hiding anything. Marcus's expression subtly changed, and he discreetly pushed her away. Grace, Chloe has something in her eye. I was just helping her. He shot Chloe a look, signaling her to go along with the clumsy lie. Chloe tilted her head and blinked innocently, feigning naivety. Only when Marcus's face completely darkened did she feign sudden understanding and dismissively say, "Sister, there's really nothing going on between us. Don't overthink it. Did they think I was blind?" I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. No need to explain. I don't care. Chloe looked flustered, on the verge of tears. Marcus narrowed his eyes dangerously. "I've told you I don't like your sarcastic way of speaking. Wasn't last night's lesson enough?" Not wanting to provoke him further, I lowered my eyelids. "Fine. I won't say anything else." Marcus snorted coldly and roughly pulled me into the elevator. "I'm taking you back to the Hayes family estate." Chloe followed us in, looking wronged. "Sister, after you fainted last night." Marcus was so worried he almost cried. "Please don't be angry with him anymore, okay?" I nodded obediently. "Okay." Her provocation was like punching cotton. She was instantly speechless. Inside the car, Marcus drove with a gloomy expression, and Chloe sat in the passenger seat as if it were her rightful place. "Sister," she said, turning to look at me, "I need to go to the mall to buy maternity lingerie. It's on the way. You don't mind, do you?" Before I could even speak, Marcus said coldly, "She has no right to object." I ignored him, looking down at the messages Ethan had sent. "Grace, I've sent you the wedding venue and wedding dress proposals. Please choose one. Although it's a strategic alliance, I take it very seriously, and I hope you can understand." Just as I was about to tap on the images, another message popped up. Recall previous message. "My parents take it very seriously. Where are you now? Can we meet today?" I quickly replied with my destination, unable to suppress a laugh. Ethan was so amusing. I had a strange feeling like I'd known him before. "Is your phone so entertaining? Who are you chatting with that's making you so happy?" Marcus's icy voice came from the front seat. Chloe immediately turned to look at me, a flicker of jealousy in her eyes. I suppressed my smile and closed my eyes. "I'm tired. I'm going to sleep for a bit." The car immediately fell silent, save for Marcus's heavy breathing. At the lingerie boutique, as soon as Chloe entered the fitting room, Marcus followed her in. The shop assistants whispered among themselves, "Isn't that the young master of the Hayes family vineyard? He's so good to his wife, even personally helping her try on lingerie. Is that woman outside the nanny? She looks like she's here to take care of the pregnant woman." I clarified with a wry smile. "We don't know each other. I just hitched a ride." Before I could finish, Marcus walked out, his face grim, his lips pressed into a thin line. "Marcus is so clumsy." Chloe giggled, pulling my wrist. "Sister, why don't you help me try it on?" As soon as the door closed, Chloe's expression instantly changed. "Grace, you're truly patient. He's been cheating on you for 2 years. Have you just gotten used to it? Have you started to just passively accept everything? Or are you trying to play hard to get, hoping Marcus will dump me and marry you? Do you really think Marcus likes you? He's only tolerating you because of his grandfather. The moment his grandfather passes away, you'll be the first one kicked out. You seem quite fond of such a morally corrupt man like Marcus," I said, looking at her coldly. "Chloe, you aborted 3 children for him, and he still hasn't said he'd marry you. You're still clinging to him. Are you proud of that? You don't understand our relationship at all." She suddenly shrieked, then laughed eerily. The next second, she stumbled out of the fitting room. "Sister, I was wrong. Don't kick my stomach. You'll hurt the baby." She clutched her abdomen with both hands, sobbing as she awkwardly stumbled into Marcus's arms. I let out an exasperated breath and said coldly, "Chloe, are you addicted to acting?" No sooner had I spoken than Marcus mercilessly kicked me to the ground. "Grace, why would you hurt Chloe and the baby? Explain yourself." I curled up on the ground, a sharp pain in my abdomen, blood trickling from the corner of my mouth. Marcus paused, then sighed helplessly, gently wiping the blood from my lips. "Grace, tell me why you did this. Give me a reasonable explanation, and I'll let it go." I understood what he meant. He was giving me an out, a chance to save face. Looking into his pleading eyes, I gave a sarcastic laugh. "How can I give you a reason for something I didn't do? Even if I made up a reason? Then what? You'd make me kneel and apologize to her, wouldn't you?" My obstinacy completely disheartened him. He gave a self-deprecating quirk of his lips, then took Chloe's hand and turned to leave. "Stop." A cold, sharp male voice cut through the air. "Dare to lay a hand on my fiancé? Are you looking for death, fiancé?" Marcus froze, and just as he turned around, a heavy punch landed squarely on his face. He stumbled backward, and before he could regain his balance, Ethan delivered another kick to the back of his knee, sending him directly to his knees, unable to stand. "Marcus!" Chloe shrieked, rushing over to him, frantically checking his injuries. "What's wrong? Are you hurt anywhere?" Marcus shoved her away, spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva, and his eyes glinted menacingly. Ethan, what is the meaning of this? Ethan, however, ignored him completely, gently sweeping me into his arms. Then, in a slow, deliberate tone, he said, "Mr. Hayes, is it your ears that are bad, or your brain?" Marcus's pupils constricted. His gaze darted back and forth between Ethan and me, finally pinning me with a stare. "Grace, you tell me, who is he?" That commanding tone again. I turned my face away in annoyance. "My fiancé." "Satisfied? You dared to go behind my back and find another man? And you even chose my rival?" Marcus roared. "When did I ever give you permission?" I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. "Why would I need your permission?" "Marcus, have you forgotten? We've broken up." Marcus stiffened, his face filled with disbelief. "Just a casual breakup you mentioned yesterday in a fit of pique? You've brought up breaking up countless times over the years. Which time was ever real?" I said I wanted to keep Chloe's baby, and you readily agreed not to make a fuss. "And what happened? You immediately turned around and found yourself a fiancé. Is that how desperate you are? Can't you live without a man?" Chloe immediately fanned the flames. "Marcus, sister just wants to make you jealous by finding another man. Just humor her." Marcus indeed softened his tone, but it still carried a commanding edge. "Grace, come back. I'll pretend you never harassed Chloe." I felt utterly bewildered and was about to tell him not to flatter himself, but spoke first. Scoffing contemptuously, "Marcus, you call that comforting someone? Are you insane? It's not that Grace can't live without a man. It's that I can't live without Grace. I'm desperate to marry her. Understand? A grown man with such a foul mouth and so little backbone, unable to even break up gracefully. If the Hayes family vineyard is left in your hands, it'll be ruined sooner or later." Marcus's face turned ashen from the rebuke. "Ethan, shut up." Ethan walked away with me in his arms, not forgetting to deliver a parting shot as he left. "Mr. Hayes, you're welcome to attend Grace's and my wedding next week." "Ethan." Marcus was so furious he tried to chase after us, but his leg injury made him stumble and fall to the ground. Chloe frantically called for a shop assistant to get an ambulance, holding Marcus and crying hysterically. Ethan smirked triumphantly. That kick was enough to keep him in the hospital for a week. "Want to attend our wedding? In your dreams." He looked down at me, his eyes as eager as a child asking for candy. "Grace, you don't want him at the wedding either, do you?" Meeting his gentle gaze, I awkwardly turned my face away. "Mr. Ethan, please put me down. I can walk on my own." Being held like this by a man I'd only met a few times in business meetings made me feel entirely uncomfortable. He tightened his arms, the amusement in his eyes almost spilling over. "Oh no. We have to go to the hospital first for a checkup." "No, really. I can walk." Before I could finish, he suddenly made a wronged expression, looking somewhat pathetic. "I just want to hold you. Is that so wrong?" Mr. Ethan, usually so stern, presented such a stark contrast that I was momentarily distracted, and to my own surprise, I said, "All right." Marcus was completely distraught, lying in the ambulance. He still clenched his fists tightly. He couldn't understand how Grace, who he had proposed to just yesterday, could now be in another man's arms. What was even harder for him to accept was that this man was the head of the family vineyard, the Hayes family's arch-rival. For years, the two families had been locked in fierce competition in the wine market. 5 years ago, it was with the Hayes family's assistance that the Hayes family had left the family far behind. But in the past 2 years, the family had gradually overtaken the Hayes family through product innovation. If Sullivan family were to form a strategic alliance with the Hayes family, the Hayes family would inevitably decline. These business implications should have been his biggest concern, but at this moment, his mind was consumed with the image of Grace looking so delicate, nestled in Ethan's arms. The thought made him want to kill that bastard immediately. "Driver, stop the car!" he yelled sharply, only to receive a scornful look from the nurse. "Sir, this is an ambulance. If you insist on getting out, you must first sign a waiver refusing treatment." "Fine. I won't get treated. Give me the waiver to sign." Marcus responded decisively. But Chloe, by his side, clung to him desperately, tears streaming down her face in distress. Marcus, let's go to the hospital first, okay? What could be more important than your health right now? Marcus looked at her coldly, his eyes terrifyingly unfamiliar. Grace is marrying someone else, isn't that important? How is that any different from taking my life? As soon as the words left his mouth, he froze. Turns out, at some point, the name Grace had already been deeply carved into his very being. Suddenly, the ring box slipped out of his suit pocket, his hands trembling. He opened it. The words "Marcus loves Grace" engraved inside the diamond ring made his eyes burn. Yesterday, he had clearly been on one knee, but just as the ring was about to slip onto her finger, he abruptly pulled his hand back, embraced Chloe, and left without a backward glance. He couldn't even imagine how desperate she must have felt. Left alone on the stage in front of everyone, Marcus felt an inexplicable panic. It was as if something was twisting his heart. A suffocating, dull ache. "Stop the car! Let me out immediately!" he roared hoarsely, ignoring Chloe's protests, and forcefully tried to get out of bed. Chloe's makeup was completely ruined from crying, and her voice was distorted. "Marcus, didn't you always want to be with me? Grace was just a prop you agreed to marry for Grandpa. Now that she's willingly stepped aside, and I marry you, wouldn't it be better for us to be a legitimate family of 3? You're dreaming," Marcus interrupted furiously, his eyes as cold as ice. "When did I ever say I would marry you?" Chloe stared at him blankly. "Then what were these past 2 years? You'd rather watch Grace cry and make a scene than separate from me. You've showered me with tenderness and care, and we even had 4 children. What exactly do you take me for?" Marcus was stunned by the question. He didn't know why either. Perhaps it was a stubborn obsession from his youth with Chloe, or perhaps, deep down, he was just a complete scoundrel. At that thought, he gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Chloe, don't ask me why. For a man like me, if you insist on clinging on, what exactly are you after? I love you." Chloe suddenly lunged at him, cupping his face desperately with both hands, her expression almost frantic. "I've loved you since I first saw you as a teenager. Isn't that enough?" Marcus pushed her away in disgust. "Love? I don't need it." The nurse disdainfully handed him a liability waiver, her eyes looking at him as if he were something filthy. Marcus quickly signed the paper, and the moment he pushed open the ambulance door, Chloe clutched her stomach, crying out in pain. "Marcus, please, for our baby, won't you stay?" He slammed the car door shut without looking back. However, the moment his feet touched the ground, a sharp pain shot through his knee, and he immediately collapsed to his knees. He immediately gritted his teeth. "What did that bastard Ethan do to my leg?" My parents knew about Marcus and my breakup. Eleanor, furious after I blocked her, actually called my parents directly to complain. To my surprise, my mother's voice on the other end of the line barely concealed her delight. "Good riddance. That scoundrel from the Hayes family estate isn't worthy of my daughter. Your father had his eye on that boy from the family 5 years ago, but you only had eyes for Marcus." Had his eye on him 5 years ago? I instinctively turned to look at Ethan in the driver's seat. His profile, alternating between light and shadow under the streetlights, inexplicably struck me as familiar. "Have we met before?" I couldn't help but ask aloud. He suddenly let out a long breath. "Grace, are you finally going to remember me? Come on, I'll take you somewhere to clear your head and see if it jogs your memory." Finally, he took me to the riverfront park, which offered an excellent view. Across the river, the city lights twinkled brightly, and celebratory fireworks occasionally burst in the night sky. This was the place I always used to come alone to stare blankly whenever Marcus broke my heart. The river breeze, carrying moisture, blew across my face, and I suddenly chuckled softly. Ethan immediately turned to look at me, his expression blank, a smile unconsciously curving his lips. A memory suddenly flashed in my mind. A man wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a crisp suit stood by the river, clumsily casting a fishing rod. The next second, he slipped, falling straight into the river. "That probably doesn't count as saving you, right?" I said, feeling a little awkward. "The river wasn't even knee-deep. It's just that you fell so spectacularly. Your glasses flew off, and you had seaweed hanging from your face." Thinking of him covered in seaweed and looking so disheveled back then, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I just helped you clean up a bit." Ethan looked at me with a perfectly serious face. "Saving my dignity, doesn't that count as saving me?" I sighed, putting a hand to my forehead. If you put it that way, I suppose so, but I couldn't help but mutter to myself. He wants to marry me just because of that? He seemed to read my mind, lifting his chin slightly, and declared confidently, love at first sight. Combined with saving my dignity, I think that's a perfectly sufficient reason. I paused, then realized, is this a confession? He chuckled softly. Will you say yes? I pursed my lips. We're getting married in a week. How can I not say yes? At the Hayes family estate gates, Marcus stood outside the iron gate, leaning on his crutches. Seeing me, he stumbled forward a couple of steps, his face full of remorse. Grace, I'm sorry. These past 2 years have been all my fault. I shouldn't have gotten entangled with Chloe, and I shouldn't have trampled on your sincerity again and again. When you said today that you were marrying someone else, I finally realized I can't live without you. I promise you, I'll completely cut ties with Chloe. Will you come back to me? No, I said coldly, walking past him. Grace, in a panic, he let go of his crutches to grab me, only to fall heavily to the ground. He looked up, a bitter smile on his face. That child, I don't want it either. I don't want anything else. Only you, please? I paused, almost laughing from sheer anger. He still thought I was leaving because of Chloe's baby? Just forget it. I walked on without looking back, feeling that even a glance at him was superfluous. It was then that he noticed Ethan behind me, and his voice turned abruptly cold. Ethan, I'm begging you, if you're truly a man, don't involve Grace in the business rivalry between the Hayes and Sullivan families. All right? Shut up. Marcus. I spun around abruptly, rage surging through me. The Sullivan alliance involves no business interests. The family isn't as despicable as your Hayes family. Marcus's pupils violently contracted, and he frantically explained. No, Grace. I admit it was Grandpa's arrangement at first, but later, I truly fell in love with you. Love? I scoffed coldly. That word, coming from his mouth, was utterly laughable. In the past, every time he made a mistake, he would swear with red-rimmed eyes. Grace, I only love you. Now, hearing that word again, I just felt nauseous. Get lost. Marcus shuddered, his face looking as if he'd been stabbed. Grace, you never used to treat me like this. Why are you protecting Ethan? He turned to Ethan, his voice hoarse. Ethan, if you're a man, stand up for yourself. What kind of ability is it to hide behind a woman? Ethan raised an eyebrow, unhurriedly adjusted his cuff, and then suddenly landed a punch squarely on Marcus's face. I've put up with you long enough. He shook his reddened hand. You're so indecisive and whiny. You're no man at all. If you're going to be a scoundrel, be a thorough one. Go off with your stepsister-in-law and leave Grace alone. Then he extended his hand to me, deliberately feigning helplessness. Grace, blow on it for me. My hand hurts from hitting him. I was about to roll my eyes when a heartbreaking wail suddenly reached my ears. Chloe appeared from who knows where, clinging to Marcus's back, glaring at me with venomous eyes. Grace, is your fiancé some kind of violent brute? If he can't argue his point, he resorts to violence? Do you think Marcus is just some easy target? I took a deep breath. What a strange coincidence today, that these two plagues would show up together. One was annoying enough, but with Chloe added in, my doorstep was practically turning into a complete drama scene. Chloe, I said coldly, it's not your place to dictate how my fiancé behaves. You just need to manage your own man and take Marcus away. Chloe stared at me intently for a few seconds, seemingly confirming if I had truly given up on Marcus. Suddenly, she gently went to help Marcus up. Marcus, let's go. This heartless woman isn't worth your time. Get away from me. Marcus shoved her away forcefully, his eyes fierce. What even are you to me? Chloe stumbled back, her face ashen. I've poured my heart out to you. What does Grace have that I don't? She had you beaten like this, and you're still so blind? Marcus's eyes were bloodshot, his voice raw and terrifying. Are you deaf? I told you to get out. If you hadn't clung to me like a leech, Grace never would have left me. Watching their hysterical outburst, I irritably ran my hands through my hair. Security, please escort these two out. As the security guards hauled them away, Marcus suddenly burst into agonizing sobs. Grace, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The world suddenly fell silent. Ethan gently covered my ears with his hands. When he looked down at me, his eyes welled with tender sympathy. If I had known it would come to this, I would have never let you go back then, Grace. It must have been so difficult, facing all this alone all these years. Wasn't it? My nose stung, and a memory suddenly flooded back, a rainy day 5 years ago. That rainy day 5 years ago. It was also in front of these iron gates. Marcus, pulling me, a tearful mess, said expressionlessly, I can be with you. I dropped my umbrella and threw myself into his arms, drenched, yet smiling like a fool. Not far away, a figure holding a black umbrella stood for a long time before finally turning and walking away. That man must have been Ethan. On the wedding day, Marcus sat alone in the very back row of the guest section. He was so thin he was almost barely recognizable, his eyes red and watery as he watched me the entire time. When the officiant pronounced us wed, he suddenly covered his mouth, bursting into wrenching sobs, and stumbled away, watched by the bewildered guests. Disturbing news came 6 months later. After giving birth, Chloe delivered the baby to the Hayes family estate gates. She went alone to the seaside, and after scattering her mother's ashes, she leapt into the sea. That same day, Marcus received a package. Upon opening it, he found 3 glass bottles inside. They contained the remains of the 3 children Chloe had aborted for him. By then, Marcus had already been disowned by the Hayes family patriarch and spent his days drinking himself into oblivion. Seeing these, his last shred of sanity snapped. He seemed to finally understand that he was the true culprit behind it all. One rainy night, he ran wildly out of the house and was never heard from again. Years later, some said they saw a monk resembling Marcus in a remote monastery in the mountains. Meanwhile, our second child was already in preschool. Leo, perched on Ethan's lap, asked in his sweet, childish voice, Daddy, why do you always wear a suit when you go fishing? Ethan shot me a quick glance, then lowered his voice and said, How else would I get your mom's attention? Daddy's fished so many times, but she only bothered to come see me that one time I purposely fell into the river. I pretended not to hear their whispered conversation, but a smile tugged at the corner of my lips. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.